So as promised, in this video we are going to create the texture around this joystick right here. So all we have to do is to just go to the appearance panel and play around with the stroke a bit. Notice though that as soon as I will actually make the stroke visible, and let me just make it a different color, like so. Well, we can't actually see it right here, but as soon as I make it bigger, you can see that it's been well, it is there, but it's well, way too big. I mean, it's around not the ellipse that we want it to be around. I mean, it's around the biggest, this bottom ellipse right here. So how can we fix that? Well, again, what we can do is we can simply make it smaller. So I'm simply gonna go to the effects symbol, again, distort and transform, and make the strokes smaller. And actually there are no right or wrong values right here. You will have to, well, test all these values and see which ones work for you better. So for me, 72, maybe even 70 will work. Yeah, this should be fine. So I'm gonna leave it at 70%. However, remember that changing different values, different aspects of your stroke might make you or might require changing this transform, this size value. But we are going to well, see it later when we are going to be playing with some other effects, with some other options. So for now, let me just maybe make the stroke a different color. Maybe this color right here, this a bit darker shade of gray. Darker shade of gray. Well, it will look great eventually. Okay, so let me just again go to the effects symbol right here, and then go to the distort and transform option. And this time I'm not going to choose transform, but I am going to choose zigzag right here. And what this option does is it zigzags any path that you create, that you select. So let me just hit preview right here, and as you can see, by default this effect, well, doesn't look well, it's not even close to what I'm trying to achieve here. So first things first, I want these points not to be corner, I want them to be smooth. So I'm going to click the smooth option right here, and you can notice that Illustrator is making these paths smooth like so. I want the size to be relative, because when I am resizing, when I'll be resizing the button, I want these ridges to be, these points to be, well, relative, to readjust, to adjust themselves to the new size of my button. So I'm going to leave it as relative. However, I am going to make it significant. I'm going to make them significantly smaller. I think that even 1% will be fine, maybe 2%. We are going to see how these, well, the size of these points will change as soon as we increase the value of ridges. So I'm going to make, I'm going to increase this value to 15. 15 should be fine. And now you can see that, let me just zoom in a bit, that we can see these little holes right here, because that's because the stroke is being aligned to the center of our path. So if I just go to the stroke panel, we can either align stroke to the inside to hide all these guys, to hide all those holes, or we can simply make the stroke thicker to hide these holes. So either way works. You can choose which one you want. I'm gonna go with the center maybe, but let me just make them, or maybe let's go to the center. It's going to be easier. The stroke will be just a bit smaller, maybe 7 points. Just like so. So there you go. This is how you can create different effects using the appearance panel. So in this case, we just took the stroke, we made it smaller using the transform option right here, and then we used the zigzag option to create these ridges right here. So remember that when you are creating these ridges, when you are using the zigzag option, just remember to, of course, if you want to make the point smooth, press the smooth option right here and play around with the ridges per segment option and the size. And this pair of options is going to give you different results. When you change one of these options, you're going to see how it, well, what it looks like in relation to the other. So let me just cancel out of here. So the very last thing here would be to create a shading effect out of the underline ellipse, because when we take a look at here, we can see that this bottommost, can I say it like that, that this bottom ellipse is actually moved a bit to the right and bottom. So in order to make this underline ellipse look like it's a looks like it's an actual shadow. Now we need to move it a bit to the side, but moving it to the side might make it look a bit too big. So most probably we are going to have to make it a bit smaller and move it at the same time. So again, I'm going to use this effects symbol, choose distort and transform, and then transform, just like so. Let me just hit preview and make it smaller, let's see, 95%. And now in this move panel right here, I'm simply going to move it, let's see, 2 pixels to the right and 2 pixels to the bottom, maybe even 3 pixels. This should be fine. I don't want to make it, I don't want to move it too big. We can always adjust it a bit later. Now what's great about all these effects is that if I make this ellipse bigger, the effects are going to readjust, and if I make it smaller, the effects are going to readjust themselves as well. So we got the first button created. Next up, we would have to create this, this button right here with this cross in the middle. And this button is almost the same like this one. However, it has something like an inner shadow because this button is a bit dented, and of course it doesn't have these ridges right here. So we're going to create this button in the next video.